Samsung had its S20 event today, and I'm pretty excited about it. So this is just going to be like a recap and kind of my thoughts on the whole situation. So Samsung released three devices today: the S21, the S21 Plus, and the S21 Ultra. Now these are obviously the next version of S lineup. It's a continuation of last year's S20 lineup. Now it's the S21, obviously. And there are a few changes, but really they're not entirely all that different from the S20. The main thing being is that the base model is $200 less than the S20 was. So when the S20 launched last year, it started at $1,000, $999. Now the S21 regular is starting at $799, which is great. And there are a few compromises there to get the price down, but they aren't deal breakers in really any way. So the S21 has got pretty much what you expect like for a flagship in 2021. So it has the Snapdragon 888 processor. It's got 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's got a 120 Hz adaptive OLED refresh rate, which goes from, it can go from 98 hertz to 120 hertz depending upon the situation. So if you're just sitting on the home screen, it's going to stay at like the lowest hertz setting. But if you're scrolling through something, or if you're playing a game where you really need all the refresh rate you can get, then it's going to go up to like 120. And then of course it's pretty much the same camera system as the S20. So it's got a 12 megapixel primary shooter, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then a 64 megapixel telephoto lens. But with the S21 compared to the S21 Plus, these two phones are pretty much the same this year at least, with a few things that are different. So they have the exact same camera system, no depth sensors or anything on the S21 Plus. It's basically just a bigger screen size and a bigger battery. But on the regular S21, the back is made out of plastic, similar to the S20 FE. But the S21 Plus has a frosted glass back. So they're both matte, but just one's plastic and one is glass. Then the other thing that's like pretty much a downgrade from the S20 is just that you're getting 8 gigabytes of RAM now instead of starting at 12 gigabytes of RAM, which you don't really need 12, I don't think. I think 8 is perfectly fine, saving the $200. And then the other thing is that the displays can only go up to 1080p, but they can still be 1080p 120 hertz. So I feel like on the S20 anyway, to enable 120 hertz, you had to put it down to 1080p anyway. So I feel like that's not going to be a deal breaker for most people. And then the last thing is that there's no expandable storage on any of these models, even the Ultra model, which I think is the most disappointing because you can't just throw in an SD card with songs on it or save a bunch of movies or photos to them. Now you have to stick with what you have on the phone, so you might want to upgrade the storage right away. A little disappointing, but I guess you had to bring the price down, but whatever. But even last year's S20 FE, I believe, had a micro SD card slot, so they probably should have kept it, but whatever. Now this year, all three of these models are not including a charging brick in the box. They are including a cable, a USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable, but no charging brick, just like Apple. So you're going to have to find your own USB power delivery charging brick. So that's basically everything that the S21 regular and Plus have. The Ultra adds, so their camera setup is a little different. So the main camera is a 108 megapixel primary camera. The ultra wide, I believe, is 12 megapixels. And then the telephoto is a periscope, so 10 times optical zoom for that. And then they also have another 3 times optical telephoto zoom. So it kind of just depends how much you want to zoom in. I feel like most people just want to zoom in a little bit. Like if you're recording a kid's concert or something, you're going to want to probably use that 3 times telephoto zoom. But if you want to get a pigeon that's way up on a building or something, then that's when you can use the space zoom with the 10 times optical periscope zoom lens there. The other difference is that the display on the S21 Ultra, the display is curved a little bit, very slightly, but on the other ones the display is flat. The display is still in OLED 120 Hz, but it can range the refresh rate more. So on the Ultra, I believe it's like 12 or something. It can get down to 12 hertz, and they can go up to 120 hertz, so that's can save a little bit more battery there. The battery is obviously a little bit bigger on the Ultra. The Ultra is a little bit bigger, and there are different color options. So there's a brown, there's an all black, there's a black and like gray one, there's a black and like dark blue one, whereas you get like the purple and the bronze on the regular S21. But in my opinion, I really like the design of the S21. I think it looks really nice. I like how the camera module kind of matches up with the sides and is kind of just coming out. In my opinion, it looks better than the S20, because the S20 was weird because it had the 3 cameras and then the side had like a little extra thing. Sometimes there wasn't stuff in there. I think that this looks much more refined, the back at least. The front is pretty much the same. Again, it's got the flat display, it's got the little punch hole camera. Oh, and I believe that that camera is 10 megapixels, so it's not crazy anything. Like, I believe that the S20 FE had like a 32 megapixel selfie camera, and this has a 10 megapixel, which is interesting, but the selfie hole punch is indeed smaller. Also at the event, they announced the Samsung what was it, the Smart Things tracker, whatever that was called. Basically their tile. They have a regular version and they have a plus version. The regular version is like the exact same thing as a tile. The plus version has, I believe it has ultra wideband, I think it has ultra wideband. So like you can sense from your phone where it is. You can use like an AR kind of a setup, so you can find it wherever it is. You can look through your phone and then, oh, it's behind the bookcase, which I think is pretty cool. And then the other thing is the Galaxy Buds Pro, which is probably the least interesting thing out of the event. I think it's pretty much just like the next Galaxy Buds or Galaxy Buds Plus. It's not like the Galaxy Buds Live. It's a different thing. It just seems pretty boring. I mean, they have the new transparency mode so you can hear stuff. It's got active noise cancellation. But the colors are okay and the device just seems kind of alright. But overall, I'm really excited for the S21. Am I going to buy it? Probably not, because I don't really need it. But I feel like most people could be satisfied with the S20 over the S21, because there's really not that much that's changed. I feel like this year is more of an evolution year versus a revolution year kind of a thing. Same with like Apple's iPhone. I feel like this year there's not going to be as much. Like when you look at the S20 compared to the S10, the S20, I mean, you got 5G there. You got a better camera system with like a better telephoto. You get the 120 hertz. You got the hole punch that's smaller and in the middle of the display. This year, really, the only thing that's like improved is the processor. So you get a Snapdragon 888. The design is a little bit more refined, and the display is flat. But besides that, there's really not all that much that's different. So let me know what you guys think. Are you going to get an S21, or do you think that it's worth it? It is $200 less now, so that's certainly a good thing. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Tea Time, and I'll see you guys later.